those were the hot topics at Mobile World Congress. I'm going to turn it over to Dan Norman now, who's going to talk about Vision 2020 and our connected life.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to cover those two topics. One, our 4 priorities, and then connected living. Let's see. State of the mobile industry. We didn't wake up one day and decide to just work on these 4 things. We don't sit in our office and say, we ought to work on that, we ought to work on that, cut this one out. We go to our members routinely and ask them, what's important to you? Where do we need to focus our time and our energy on your behalf? And a couple of key points here. Number one, if you look at growth of mobile data, the demand for mobile data, it's going to increase 11 times between now and the year 2020. So put that data point aside. On the other hand, the revenues associated with that increase in data are an increase of 3 to 5%. There's a disconnect there, a disconnect that we've been tagged by our members to work on. So over a year ago, we went out to our members and the ecosystem. These charts represent the companies that we talked to. We didn't talk to 1 or 2 people, or just the folks here in Orlando or the folks in London. We went out globally and talked to all of our members and ecosystem to find out what's important to you. What are you concerned about? How do we bridge that gap? And these were the 4 areas that our members said are important for us to work on. Reed mentioned them before. You've got personal data, connected living, digital commerce, and Network 2020. Now, the one I want to talk about tonight, very quickly, is connected living. Connected living is a heck of a lot more than just a connected refrigerator. The last thing I want is to get a call from my toaster one day explaining that it needs something. So there's a lot more to connected living than that, and a lot more to connected living than just following your automobile or flow, knowing where you are and whether you've had a wreck or not, or whether or not your home is locked up. A lot more to connected living globally. It's a world where everything connects intelligently, intelligent connections. You've all got a smartphone, many of you have a tablet, many of you have got a set-top box at home, a laptop. People are starting to wear Google Glass. At least only this week they're starting to wear Google Glass. What is connected living? It is a world with non-traditional services, ubiquitous internet coverage, and multiple device types, because you do things differently and you need a different kind of device depending upon what you're doing. Pervasive connectivity, multiple services delivered automatically to your device whenever and wherever. It's technology that works with you and around you. It's everywhere you are. Valuable connected experiences, everything intelligently connects without you having to do anything. Today, total devices, 10 billion, going to 25 billion by the year 2020. Mobile devices, 6 billion in 2012, going to 11 billion by 2020. And if you look at a breakdown of the revenues associated with those devices, and a total of $1.1 trillion in additional revenue opportunity to the mobile network operators. Let's talk a little bit about the applications. Connected car, you all heard about connected car, you know about connected car. Vehicle charging, trying to find a space, a spot to charge that vehicle, intelligently telling you where those spaces are. Healthcare monitoring, security, wearables, Google Glass. I was on a panel of the National Association of Broadcasters last week, and I was talking with 3 application developers for Google Glass. True story. Walked up to one of them, and he and I were talking away. I asked him where he was from, and he said, I'm from Kansas. And I stood there looking at him, and I kind of waved my hand in front of him. And he said, oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at pictures. He was zoned out in the middle of the conversation. Sorry, Google Glass. Pay-as-you-drive insurance, based on your characteristics and usage. Car rental and lease, traffic management, smart meters, smart buildings. All those different kinds of applications above and beyond what you hear about every day. Let's talk a little bit about the socioeconomic impact over the next 5 years, not in Atlanta, not in North America, but globally. 1 million lives can be saved based on e-health initiatives. Reminders by text messages on the simple side, monitoring people on the other side, being able to take not necessarily healthcare professionals, but devices into underdeveloped countries and be able to help people monitor their health. $400 billion can be saved, or will be saved, it's estimated, between now and the year 2020 on improved healthcare, not having to visit a doctor as often, being able to monitor yourself, have your doctor monitor you, have information transferred back and forth that can help prevent you from having to go to the doctor as often, and have the doctor know what your health is like. 40 million people will be fed based on initiatives. If you look at underdeveloped countries, as many as 240 million tons of food are wasted in transport. Being able to monitor a truck, monitor the refrigeration unit in the back, know where it is, know when it's going to be delivered, or if it's not going to be delivered, and get help out to move that food can mean 240 million tons of wasted food that can be saved, which essentially could feed 40 million people. 1 in 9 automobile accidents, individuals can be saved based on 50% faster response time. You can't necessarily prevent accidents with connected living and connected vehicles, but you can get responses much, much, much quicker. A week back a year, if you look at globally, just commuting from one place to another, if you look at simple things like buses that aren't filled, but they're taking up space on the highway, you look at the time it takes to get into a tube in London to buy a ticket, if you take into account being able to swipe your phone, or taking vehicles off the road that aren't fully loaded, or adding more vehicles where they need to be, it boils down to a week of time a year that you can get back on a global basis just in the time saved in commuting. 1.2 billion trees. I learned a lot about smart meters lately. 6% adoption, now at 30% adoption 3 years later. It's 28 million smart meters. And if you look at the carbon emissions that are saved by smart metering globally, it's as much of an impact as planting 1.2 billion trees. Very green. And then 180 million kids worldwide can either stay in school or get in school. If you think about places where there aren't teachers, there's not curriculum, but there are tablets, there are phones, 180 million people can take advantage of secondary education. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rafael Diaz, who's going to come up and talk about personal data. Thank you.